So, today we're doing something slightly differently. Today, um, I am going to talk to you guys about having children because it's something that I've never thought I would want to be talking about. However, I have somehow maybe I have matured or something has changed in me over the last a year and a half or over the past year that I started thinking about having kids, possibly, potentially in the future. And the thing is, I noticed that in our developed countries recently, it's been a growing issue that we are not wanting to have children because of how expensive everything is. And I think that was the primary reason. The expenses of things are going up and things are becoming more and more unaffordable. So I wanted to provide my 2 cents on this topic as someone who never thought about having kids but has changed or is in the process of changing her mind. Yeah, so let's just talk about my theory on this point. So my theory has been that a lot of the things that we choose not to do are based around our fears, whether that's true or not. I think it's pretty true. Because that having kids is something that we have control over, yet it's a huge leap from where we are now to being responsible of having so many kids. And from my own personal experience, a lot of that has to do with my fear, because when I was growing up, I remember looking around my extended family members and seeing that my parents are one of the only ones with non-divorce marriage. So they are still together while all of my other extended family members, they are having quite a bit of problems in their relationships, or I can see some of the kids, they are just not happy because of the way that the parents are putting so much pressure on them academically. And I think that has to do with a lot of my upbringing, and it kind of shaped the way that I view the fact of having children for the longest time. And for that reason, I just was not into children. I subconsciously or consciously, I just wanted to stay away from them. Let's say if I remember when I was younger, when the teacher would bring his son and daughter to class, and all the kids, because we're slightly older, we're around, I think, grade 3 or 4. Yeah, we were around grade 3 or 4, and the kids, they would be very excited to see and play with the daughter and the son of my teacher. But I would always be the one that didn't really care. I just kind of want to do my own thing. I just don't want to have anything to do with the kids because I used to find them really annoying. And as I grow, I try all my best to stay away from anything, any career choice that has to do with kids, because I cannot stand them, or I could not stand them. And something just started to change something started to change over the past year or so. I think one of the most vivid memory was when I was walking my dog Happy one day, and I passed by a house, and there are these immigrant kids, and they are just running around on the grass field in front of their house on their driveway, and one of them was riding the bicycle and the other one was whipping the wood stick, whatever they found on the ground around, and they were trying to climb the trees. And from that point, I kind of had that change of heart and change of mind, because that kind of reminded me of myself when I was younger, and it was different because I haven't seen that kind of situation in a long time. After I came to Canada, I realized a lot of kids, they focus a lot more on academics than when I was back in Taiwan, because I was raised in a school where we focus not so much on academic but more on the inner growth, and we interact with nature a lot more. So after I arrived to Canada, it just changed. Maybe it's because I was placed in a school that's more in the city area, so academic became one of our main focuses. So interacting with the nature just kind of got lost in between the time that I was studying and having to learn English. So seeing those kids running and just interacting with the nature and just being kids, just not stuck to a screen, or not being forced to do all the extracurricular math, English classes or other classes. It just changed something in me. So something shifted in my mind. I couldn't explain what, but that day I remember coming home and telling my parents that these kids that I saw today when I was walking the dog, that changed something in me, but I'm not sure what. And as the time goes on, I realize that I am able to see the good in kids more and more and more. And I just like writing this one, just like journaling. One of my journal sessions, I reflected on the thought and on what I saw in those kids. And I realized I think I've been living in fear for most of my life, because of growing up and seeing kids around me and seeing the low rates of families that are still together in my extended family. That kind of scared me, because I don't know. I wasn't sure if I will be able to provide my kids and raise them the way I want them to grow up to be. So that was something that I noticed. It's just a fear. So much things are associated with a fear. And I'm a person who, a lot of times I try to reflect on myself and see what I'm thinking and truly understand the thoughts behind my actions. Yet this part, the part of having children, was always buried so deep down that I just didn't want to explore it and never thought about exploring it. So now that I started to open my mind up to children And I think also partially that's probably due to the fact that I am growing older and I have a little bit more romantic experiences in my life. Because previously in high school, I was not ever in any relationship. I was not interested in any relationship. And I was still figuring my life out, which I think it was a pretty good point of my life where I was just not distracted by other things and instead focusing on what I truly love. But also, I think I am also a pretty late bloomer in terms of this aspect. And a lot of my friends, they knew that they wanted kids, but I just was not sure, or I was just opposed to the idea of kids. But also bringing in other life experiences, like working with animals and working in the dog training field for a little bit and working with different animal behavior. Like I worked with parrots in shelter settings and worked with dogs very, very closely and throughout my entire academic career, and just studying their behavior. And after I started teaching kids, I noticed how much similarities there were between kids and animal behavior, and much how malleable they are. Because from a young age, if you use a lot more positive reinforcement in their learning. So I experimented around positive reinforcement, and I noticed that it really does make such a difference to a kid's learning. Because a lot of parents nowadays, of course it's difficult to just 100% positive reinforcement because it's not realistic, let's just say that, as we're not built in a mold. So back to just talking about children overall, is that I started noticing the potential of that kids, they are not as bad as I thought they were. I think there's the society in general, or maybe more people should be thinking about what really brings meaning to life. Because I think there's quite a bit of research and scientific studies showing that one of the keys to happiness is having purpose in life. And of course, kids are not going to be the only thing that brings purpose to our lives. But think about if we only work for our whole entire life, and I was just thinking, if all we do is work for so many decades until we get to 80 years old, or maybe 60, 70, 80 years old, and all we do is just work, what kind of value can we actually bring to life? Because I realized that education, like being able to teach a person or being able to teach maybe your own kids, is very different from teaching everyone else. I noticed that in my parents, the way that they raised us, we're basically not really a carbon copy, but they are able to distill what they truly want on themselves onto us and make us just a version of them, and yet still be able to learn from us as we're growing up. So it's just kind of like a mutual learning situation. So after I started interacting with kids and learning from them, I just realized how much more purpose that has brought to my life. And also think about the fact that in the future, if all of us are choosing to not have kids, it's going to place a lot more pressure on the younger generation, because we are going to grow older and our productivity is going to become lower, and the younger generation are going to be so much more pressured and under so much more stress than what we're currently experiencing already, which I don't want them to. So at the same time, I think about the society as a whole, and I think about like bringing purpose into my own life and maybe your life as well. So yeah, so I just, from that point of seeing those three kids running in their front yard and riding the bicycle and just being kids, it just sparked this whole entire thought of how scary would it be if we really just choose all not to have kids. Because I think there's still that intrinsic value that is left over of having kids and being able to grow as a parent and educate these people that you created, you brought to life. And it just, it's mind-boggling of how amazing it will be. Of course, it's not gonna be every single day that's going to be amazing. There's going to be a lot of stress raising kids, but just like in school, right? There is good days and bad days, but overall we're growing and we're going towards a better future for ourselves. And maybe while we're building ourselves and maturing, we can also bring along another person or a few little people that we've created and show them the world and our values, and maybe just bring some really cute little human beings on this earth. So that is my take on the fact of having kids. I think we should put a little bit more thought into it while we can, and not just reject it as a society. Yeah. And I think another, this is such a complex topic, but another thing that I think about is there are two kind of trajectories that my life will likely take place. Is if I do not find a good partner or someone that I am able to rely on fully, that we are able to work together as a team, I would choose definitely not to have kids, because that is going to bring a lot of trauma unimaginable to the kid. Yet, if I am able to find a partner and with similar values, with similar thoughts about the future, then having kids will definitely be something that would be valuable for my life and for the children's life, because I want to be able to make them into a tiny version of me and my partner, and just bring a little bit more value to the society and bring a more purpose for this one and only life that I have on this earth. So yeah, I will just end this one here, and hopefully you got a little bit of value out of it. It's just a little bit of my thoughts. Might be a little bit all over the place, but I think we should still place some more value and thoughts on having kids instead of trying to run away from it or reject it, because it's human nature after all, and maybe it will make our lives better if we make the right decision going forward. So thank you so much for coming to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like it, I will, even if just one of you guys like it, I will continue to make more things like this, talking about life. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys again in the next episode.